I am back. Eddie Muller, back with Ann Hawkins, Director of Communications for the Film Noir Foundation, for another installment of Ask Eddie and Ann and Charlotte. It's fun. Yeah, I love how when you send me some of the questions in advance, I love how they're now directed to felines.
Yeah.
Here, Eddie, Ann, and felines, assorted felines. That's good. So anyway, Ann, once again, it is great to see you. I hope I am not just a puddle by the end of this recording, because it is super hot where I am right now. I do have a restorative beverage at hand. This people do ask, so I will say this is a Paloma. It is tequila, lime, and squirt.
Oh my.
Squirt soda. It's the only time I ever drink squirt soda is in this cocktail. So there you go.
I didn't think I even realized
it's good.
It still made squirt.
Indeed, they do. But, you know, it's just like Coca-Cola. There's squirt and then there's Mexican squirt. Just like people say, oh, but only get the, you know, the Mexican Coke. It's like only get the Mexican squirt.
Yeah, that's because it's made with sugar instead of corn syrup, so it tastes much better.
There you go. There you go. Okay, we should get rolling because I can feel the sweat trickling down my forehead already.
Okay. And there's no one there to powder you.
No, this is I'm not on set at TCM. I have no assistants here to help me.
So I want to start out. Peter, who's the admin of a Facebook group called the Femme Fatales of Film Noir, has set us up with a matching donation drive this month for $1,000, and that's on behalf of a moderator on the account, Elizabeth Rachel Heavey Brearley, who passed away recently. And so this is being done in her honor because she loved film noir.
Well, that's very kind of Peter. My condolences. I'm very sorry to hear that. I feel like we've lost one of our own. But that's very nice and greatly appreciated. And I don't know this woman. I'll have to go check out if her Facebook page or something is still up. I'm going to go check that out. So thank you, Peter. And this is a good thing that's been happening. I think Connie and Jay got us rolling with doing the matching donation thing. So let's make sure people understand the way it works. So what Peter is saying is if we receive a donations totaling $1,000 in the period coming up to our next Ask Eddie, he will match it with $1,000 donation. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, and it's through the month of July.
Through the month of July. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So don't feel like your donation will be too small. Every donation, even if it's only $5, you know.
Well, yes, absolutely. I have learned that over the years that you know, we get donations in every possible permutation, and they all matter and they all count. I'm just I'm happy about this, but I'm sad at the same time. I wish it was a nicer circumstance, but it's very generous and kind of Peter to do that. All right. So, do we have questions?
We do have questions. Lots of questions. Okay, we'll start with Michael. After a month of Eddie teasing us about the Neo-noir series, Eddie and Ben are hosting on TCM in July, which is this month starting on Fridays.
It has begun. As we're recording this, it has begun. Yes. Okay.
Okay. I finally saw the lineup of movies being shown on the Foundation's Facebook page. Yesterday, I received an email from the Criterion Channel announcing their July lineup, which also includes a neo-noir series featuring 27 films with only a couple overlapping on the TCM lineup. Is this similar theme programming due to coincidence or coordination?
It's due to the fact that they just steal every idea I have. No, I'm just teasing. No, it certainly was not any coordination on my part. I knew nothing about Criterion doing this neo-noir series. It's not the first time Criterion has done a neo-noir
Yeah.
program on their channel. I was just unaware that it was going to be, they were doing another one in July, which is when we had this set up for TCM for quite a few months. So I don't really know if it was something that somebody discussed behind the scenes or not. I have no idea.
Yeah.
They don't have any films in that series on Criterion that I wanted to program for TCM, which I thought was kind of interesting, because when I saw that they were also doing a neo-noir, I said, oh man, did they get the ones that I wanted to show and couldn't get? And in fact, I don't believe they did. Or there may be one, and that may be why we didn't get it, because it may have been the kind of thing where it was an exclusive license to Criterion or something. So, but what can you say? The more, the better, right?
Yeah, and I also got that email, and I wondered that too. It's like, okay, well, that's really strange that they're doing the same month. Okay, so
It's not like I have to say, it's not like TCM and Criterion are competitors.
Right, of course not.
Yeah. At one fine day, we were actually collaborators back on Filmstruck, and in fact, I'm so pleased that Criterion just went their own way and did their own thing after AT&T dissolved Filmstruck. But I did a promo for Filmstruck about neo-noir, and that has now been repurposed because TCM did all the special interstitial features for Filmstruck, and that has now been repurposed with new film clips and is being used during the month of July on TCM to promote the neo-noir series.
Okay.
So if people look at that on TCM and think, haven't I seen this somewhere before? You have, but now it has different film clips because they traded out all the stuff for movies that I am showing in July.
Okay, this next one is from Glenn in Maryland. Interested in your opinion of two recent films, one of which I just streamed and the other of which I will see in a theater this week. So he's probably seen it by now. First, El Crack Cero, directed by Jose Luis Garcia, a prequel to two films made 40 years ago, loaded with film noir and hard-boiled references, including a life-size statue of Bogart. Have you seen that?
I know the film he's talking about. The director's name is Garcia. It's not actually Garcia. It's Garcia.
Oh, Garcia.
Garci. I've only seen the trailer for it. I have not seen the film, and it is clearly an homage to film noir. It's in black and white. I have a little trouble getting used to widescreen high def black and white, which because it's like you're so clearly paying tribute to the old films, but the high def doesn't look like the old films at all.
Yeah.
And so it's a little tough. So I can't really comment on it. I'm aware of the fact that this movie is considered a prequel to the movie that Garcia made back in the early 80s. I don't remember what year it was, but it was called El Crack, the crack. And this is, the prequel to that. But I have not seen it. I've only seen the trailer. I don't judge a movie based on the trailer. So I'll report back.
Okay. And also Riders of Justice, which you were anticipating in a May episode.
Well, Anne, did you pay him to ask this question?
No, I did not, but I was very, very happy when I saw it.
Yeah, I feel like, am I crazy? We didn't talk about Riders of Justice yet, have we, on Ask Eddie?
I don't think we've done it on Ask Eddie. The two of us have talked about it, but I don't think we've actually talked about it. Okay,
that's why I'm thinking, like, didn't we talk about this? But
or I could be wrong. We have talked about it.
Even Charlotte loved Riders of Justice because she's like jumping in to say, yeah, talk about it. Well, I know that you've already seen it. How many times? Three times already for you, all in theaters, right?
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. In the same theater, I presume.
Yep.
And I, based on your recommendation, I rented it and streamed it and loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic, and I highly recommend it to everyone. It's funny how some streaming services bill it as an action movie. It really is not an action movie at all. It's fantastic, and I don't want to really. I mean, you and I could talk about this movie endlessly, as we already have. It's a Danish film, and the Riders of Justice is a biker gang, and it's riders like riding like a but there are no biker things in it.
Right.
So don't think it's a biker movie at all. But it's kind of a revenge story that turns into a very, very fabulous psychological study and an ensemble piece with all these, as most of these Danish movies that you're turning me on to lately,
Yeah,
they really are ensemble pieces where it's usually four men who are thrown together, four mismatched men who are thrown together in some extraordinary circumstance, and then what comes out of that. And this one does have automatic weapons involved, but that's not the point of the film.
yeah.
So highly recommended.
Yeah,
I do, and please see it, and don't. I as soon as I saw this, I said, there's going to be an American remake of this movie, and they're going to screw it up because they're not going to get the priorities straight in the way this story is told. Like, they're doing Leonardo DiCaprio is remaking Another Round. And as soon as I saw Another Round, one of my first comments to my wife was, in America, this would play as a dopey kind of comedy or something. I mean, I was somewhat relieved that it was DiCaprio because it won't be a comedy if he's in it. Yeah. But see the original.
Yeah, you should definitely see Another Round, and you should definitely see Riders of Justice. And Riders of Justice is also written, directed by Anders Thomas Jensen, who did Flickering Lights, which I got you to watch, and The Green Butchers, which is also brilliant, Men and Chickens, and Adam's Apples. And Adam's Apples is actually, I mean, it's funny, but that's probably his most kind of intensely, darkly tragic at the same time. Mm-hmm. So if you do watch that, just be prepared. It gets very intense. But he just does have these things where it's usually these four characters and their interactions, and he tends to take on sort of, deeper meanings, especially about found family, which I think is a big theme of his.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely what Riders of Justice is about, and one of the more interesting depictions of like counseling and therapy.
Yeah,
I know people who haven't seen it are wondering, like, what is he saying? There's automatic weapons and there's counseling and therapy, and what is this movie? Yeah. But it's sort of one of a kind, and I appreciate that.
Okay, so on to Steve, who has two questions. I heard quite a while ago that there was a remake of The Big Sleep coming down the pike, then nothing. Did I dream this? If you're certain that I dreamed it, I must ask you to stay out of my dreams.
This is Steve?
This is Steve.
Okay, Steve, I'm sorry. I will intrude in your dreams whenever I feel like it. No. I think Steve is conflating a couple of things. Number one, it wasn't officially a remake of The Big Sleep that was considered. It was that the rights had been purchased to all the Philip Marlowe novels, originally by Clive Owen. This was a number of years ago. But more recently, it is Liam Neeson that they're talking about playing Philip Marlowe, and it's not The Big Sleep, because they probably encountered some kind of rights issues with the Helga Green estate that controls all the Chandler novels. So they're talking about adapting The Black-Eyed Blonde by Benjamin Black, which is a quote unquote official Philip Marlowe novel. It's written under the name Benjamin Black, but the writer's actual name is John Banville. And that novel exists. I didn't really like it. I didn't really think that it did much with Marlowe, or it left me cold. But that's the one that they're talking about adapting to a film with Liam Neeson playing Philip Marlowe. So Steve, you're not crazy. I'm happy to report you're not crazy. But also, if you go on IMDb or something, you're not going to see anything about it, because I don't even think it's in pre-production. And given that the Clive Owen thing never happened, I'm not waiting with bated breath for the Liam Neeson Marlowe to happen either.
And this is his second question. Is there a term that differentiates neo-noir that takes place in the current times and the kind that is filmed like a period piece?
Yeah, it's a period noir. But it's interesting this is kind of an amusing question, because it's something I thought about when I was programming the Neo-noir series for TCM, because most of those films were contemporary.
Right.
But then every so often you'd come across one like Chinatown, which I really wanted to show, that was set in 1937, made in 1974. Well, not all, because I do believe there's Edwardian noir and all that kind of stuff. But most of the noir that people know and love were all contemporary films at the time. You could argue, the Maltese Falcon was the good one, the really good one, was made in 1941, but it's set in 1929. But is that a period film? Not really. It doesn't. So there is no term for what he's talking about. It's just, I would say it's a period noir. That's what I would say. And the fact that the title is then followed by the year it's made, which says, 2020, a period noir, you would get the point. And as I've probably said a bunch of times in past installments and in print and everything else, I'm not, even though I'm doing this series on TCM, I'm not a huge fan of the term neo-noir, because to me, it's just become noir. It's just noir. So that's about all I can muster for answer on that one. I would say period noir, and then let the year that the film was made indicate the neo-ness of it,
Yeah. Okay, this is from Tina. How do you select your roster of movies for Noir Alley? Do you have serious reservations about some of them, and do you bring back oldies but goodies?
I love that. It sounds like Tina has watched a few that she didn't particularly care for. Do you have serious reservations about some of them? No, I don't have reservations about anything that I program. I know that some of them won't be as well received as others, but if I'm showing it, there's something about it that I think is of value. And I also, this is a very important point, like I've been doing the TCM stuff for like 5 years now, and I've been doing the film festivals for over 20 years. And there's a huge difference between them, and a huge difference in the audience expectations. Because when you show a film, I'm on once a week on TCM, and people get up for it and they get psyched, and then if they don't like the movie, they can be disappointed.
Yeah.
Whereas at the Noir City Film Festivals, if they don't like the movie, there's another one tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or there's
Right.
another one on the second half of the double bill. So people are far more generous in the theatrical experience, which is interesting given that they have to leave their house and pay an admission, but the vibe is different, at home, yeah, you're paying for your subscription to cable and all that stuff. But because it's once a week, they want it to be really good. And so if the last film I showed to date this recording, the last film I showed was Guilty Bystander.
Yeah.
Which of course I'm going to show because it's a restoration and Nicholas Refn did this great job saving it. It's a total rarity. It's Zachary Scott playing the most alcoholic character in film noir. Mary Boland plays a part unlike anything you've ever seen her in. There's all kinds of things going for this movie, but I totally understand if people don't like the movie because it's a weird film, and and I knew that it would divide the audience. And then I look at social media and it's like, yep, divided the audience, but I don't ever at Noir City, I never get people coming up to me saying, don't ever do that again. But with TCM, people will write on social media like, that stunk. Don't ever show anything like that again. It's like, sorry, there's probably another one coming up in a couple of weeks that you're going to hate just as much, but people have different tastes. That's how it works,
And I personally really like that film because we did show it at North City, and I think it's one of his best performances.
He's fantastic.
I mean,
it's self-revelatory. Really it's self-revelatory. He was an alcoholic, and he let it all out in that film. He was desperate, man. So anyway, that interesting question. I don't have reservations about what I show, but I am aware of the fact that, I'm taking a risk showing this one.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Why not?
Okay. This is from Randy. I'll throw you a curve and say that Pennies from Heaven, directed by Herbert Ross, has one of the best noir musical scores. There aren't many noir musicals, however, but still Pennies from Heaven, like Powder's BBC classic Singing Detective, he also did the BBC version of Pennies from Heaven, by the way, is really fine grafting of musical minutes. You did say musical scores, right? Because we had this question before.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I missed the question. But yes, I love Pennies from Heaven. I'm always disappointed when they do these compilations of great musical scenes and they don't include Christopher Walken's scene from Pennies from Heaven, because it's just so fantastic. And that's like I guess you would say, like the great noir musical scene or great noir dance number, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic. But that was Dennis Potter's thing, he made and I love stuff like that. I love writers, directors, musicians who make something else out of noir.
Yeah.
Like The Singing Detective and Pennies from Heaven are such brilliant reworkings of the whole noir ethos.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic stuff. And Pennies from Heaven is also, everybody talks about Steve Martin in The Singing Detective, and it's like, no, it's Steve Martin in Pennies from Heaven.
Yeah.
That's really, really great. So anyway.
Okay, I just wanted to put a quick plug in for this book, Music in the Shadows, which is about noir musical films, and it's Sherry Shinnon Beeson wrote it. And so if you want to kind of know more about the crossover between noir and musicals, if this is really
it's good. I read that book. It's good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Okay, this is from Joe. I recently enjoyed the remake of The Killers on Noir Alley, but could have helped but think that Newman or McQueen would have been better in the Cassavetes race driver role. Have you ever had the same thought about a classic noir where you would have preferred another actor in the role?
Oh, he's just saying that because Newman and McQueen actually were race car drivers.
Yeah.
So, it's, although I'd be curious to know if Paul Newman was racing cars then. Like, I don't know when he started racing cars. McQueen, I think, was always kind of,
Yeah, he was always a gearhead.
yeah, gearhead, exactly. But I like John Cassavetes in that movie. I don't, I wouldn't trade him out for those guys.
I don't think either. Can I just interject? I don't think either of them would have been good in that role. Frankly,
I can't see Paul Newman. I can definitely not see Paul Newman in that part. I could kind of maybe see Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
But which is it's very similar to a part he played in the Great St. Louis Bank Robbery.
Yeah.
Where he was the getaway driver for a bank heist in that movie. That was one of his earliest starring roles, and it's a good film. But the question was, is there the answer I have, and I know Ginger Rogers fans are going to kill me, but Tight Spot, Phil Carlson's Tight Spot, I would trade Gloria Graham for Ginger Rogers in that movie in a freaking heartbeat, because she plays it like Gloria Graham, but she's not Gloria Graham. And so she can't quite pull off that kind of silly but savvy thing that Gloria Graham does, where you're not quite sure, is she dopey or is she way ahead of the game here? And so I kind of felt like that part was written for Gloria Graham, but the movie was made at that point where she was having issues in her life and career, and so she was a risk to put in a film. So and Ginger Rogers was clearly looking for something to change it up.
Yeah.
And I'm not picking on Ginger Rogers as an actress. I'm just saying that she was wrong in that role, because she's great in Storm Warning. She's fantastic, and in a lot of other things. I'm just talking about the noirish stuff. So she can do it, but that's my answer. It would be, I'd put Gloria in Tight Spot.
Since October 22nd, 2020, when you discussed the Diego Rivera painting in Evelyn Keyes' house in the Prowler, I have noticed the print of the painting in Gloria Graham's apartment in A Lonely Place, in the communist femme fatale's apartment in The Woman on the Pier 13, and in Barbara Stanwyck's bedroom of her bed in Crime of Passion. Do you know of any other films noir that have the Diego Rivera painting of the peasant burdened by a heavy load in them?
It's called The Flower Carrier, is the title of the painting, and Rivera painted it in 1935. And there's a theory that it appears in these movies as kind of a symbol of solidarity, kind of a left-wing shout out to during the witch hunt, like a solidarity with the persecuted and all that, because of Rivera's politics. And it's in repeat performance. I think it's in Joan Leslie's apartment in repeat performance. And I know it's in a few others that are escaping me right now. I believe someone I think in the UK put together a complete list. I don't have it at hand, but I think it's in a book called Un-American Hollywood. There's a chapter in there on the use of the flower carrier in films as a signifier of solidarity with the left in Hollywood. That's what I know.
And just another note from Jim: I'm joining the FNF today. I'm sending a check to the Peru Street address in Alameda this afternoon. So thank you, Jim, very much for donating. We really appreciate it.
Good job. Good job.
I have two questions, and this is from Rodney. I believe that the original Chinatown had a scene at the beginning of the movie involving the so-called unwritten law in discussion between Curly and how do you pronounce his name? Is it Gitz?
Gittes. Well,
Gitz.
unless you're John Huston, then you pronounce it Gitz. But it's
Okay.
Jake Gittes, yeah.
Yes, and Gitz. I do not know why that scene. I picked it up.
Well,
from
that's funny, yeah,
Christian.
because that's a whole thing in the movie that John Huston keeps calling him Mr. Gitz. Unless you're taking my daughter for a ride. Makes me think you're taking my daughter for a ride, Mr. Gitz. Okay.
I do not know why the scene was eliminated. Is there any chance to view Chinatown with that scene included?
Okay, I'm confused because you said that it was something that they discussed about the unwritten law.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's a reference to.
Okay.
I mean, I know I've seen Chinatown as much as any movie ever.
Yeah.
It's always had the same opening scene. It starts with the black and white photographs of Curly's wife in the bushes that Jake has taken. And then he's whining. You hear the whining. And he's chewing the Venetian blinds. You can't eat the Venetian blinds, Curly. I just had them installed on Wednesday. She's no good. I tell you, Mr. Gitz, she's no good. What can I say? You're right. When you're right, you're right. You know, listen, Curl. Anyway, as you can see, I know this movie, and I'm not entirely sure what this gentleman is referring to about a conversation about the unwritten law. But that scene has been the same scene from the day Chinatown was released. I saw it that day, and I've seen it at least once a year, every year since. So there was no other opening scene.
Okay, so question number 2 involves the movie Red Lights. I believe it was made in 2004. I saw it back then and would love to see it again. I believe it is a good French noir. Any chance it will be shown on TCM?
Okay, that was good. At first, I thought it was a mistake and they meant Red Light, the George Raft
That's exactly
movie
where my brain went to.
1949. But it's Red Lights. Yes, Cedric Kahn was the director, and it's based on a Georges Simenon novel. And it is a good film. It's a really good film. There is virtually no chance that it's going to be shown on TCM. I have enough trouble convincing them to show old foreign films. To show new foreign films, and I don't even consider 2004 to be new, it would be a stretch. You know, we're just heading into the neo-noir, like American neo-noir right now, and we'll see how that goes. So far, so good. There are people who want to say it's a harbinger of they're not going to show the old ones anymore, which is totally not true. But then you can imagine if I started showing, you know, French films from 2000, people would lose their minds. But that is a really good film. And it's interesting to note that the book, Red Lights, is actually set in the United States. But the French film is set, you know, in the French countryside. It all takes place on the road. It's a really great noir novel. It was that because Simenon lived in the United States for a while in the 1950s and wrote a number of books that were like the Brothers Rico, you know, which is set in America. He wrote when he was living here, and Red Lights was another one. I think it takes place in Connecticut. So anyway, that's that. I'm glad you liked the movie, but I can almost assure you will not see it on TCM. You may see it on the Criterion channel. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's on the Criterion channel.
Okay, and this one's from Gordon Kitt. The movie Rear Window is based on the Cornell Woolrich noir novel. It had to be Murder, but most don't consider the movie version to be film noir. Can you name a non-noir novel that was turned into a film noir? And if so, what made the film noir versus the non-noir novel?
Well, back then it was all about the style in which the film was made, and if there was a bit of a moral complexity or some kind of moral quandary, when you combine that with the noir look, you could get something that might be considered noir. I'm thinking less novels than stage plays, like Arthur Miller's All My Sons, that was adapted in 1949, and that really feels like a film noir, but it really isn't, but it certainly feels like it. Or Clifford Odets did The Big Knife, and they made a movie out of it, and that, a lot of people consider that to be a film noir. Um, I would also cite Ben Ames Williams's Lever to Heaven, which doesn't look like classic film noir at all, but because of how warped the protagonist is, it kind of fits very nicely into the. I mean, if you think film noir needs a femme fatale, then how do you not include Lever to Heaven? Because she's like the ultimate femme fatale. So, those are a few examples of stories, plays, or novels that certainly are not crime fiction, but yet they've been considered film noir.
Sorry, oh no, this okay. So Daryl from Ann Arbor has 2 questions. In an earlier installment, you discussed the use of the term sister in film noir. My favorite use of the term is in The Maltese Falcon, when Bogart as Sam Spade tells Lee Patrick as Effie, his secretary, "You're a good man, sister," which I do. I love that line so much.
It's great.
And second, I love to hear any comments you might have about the movie Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, in which James Cagney as Ralph Cotter is even more brutally ruthless than he was in White Heat. It's also a kick to see Barton McLean and Ward Bond from the cops from the Maltese Falcon team up a decade later as thoroughly corrupt cops.
Yeah, in the intervening years, they've gone completely over to the dark side.
Yeah.
I like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye very much. It's a really good novel. The Horace McCoy novel that is based on is really good, but it just doesn't get, it doesn't get the love that White Heat gets, because it doesn't have the set pieces that White Heat has. It doesn't have the mess hall scene. It doesn't have the train robbery. It doesn't have Cagney shooting, the guy in the trunk of the car while he's eating the chicken leg. So, but it's really a strong film, and Barbara Payton is really good in it. And, so I hope I can show it at some point. I've shown it a couple of times in Noir City festivals. For some weird reason, it's not that easy to get. I mean, it was a Warner Brothers title, right? They made it to cash in on White Heat, but I don't know why it's not easily accessible. But it's good. Gordon Douglas. It's he knew what he was doing.
Okay, and this is from Brian, and it's another 2 question. I recently watched The Night Holds Terror and researched the actual Curti case. I could find very little information on it. Are there any books or articles about the case that you know of? Also, I'm curious if any of the 3 Curti children are still alive.
I have no idea if the kids are still alive or not. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the guy's name was. Was it Gene or Ralph? I can't remember Cortier's name. The patriarch of the family that was held hostage. I found interesting things online. I know of no book, but my knowledge of the background of that case was all sussed out online, including courtroom accounts. That's where most of the information came from, because those guys were they sued. I mean, it was really interesting because the defendants in this case, who were the kidnappers, sued after the movie was made because they said the movie was ruining their chances of rehabilitation in society. And most of the information I learned about the case came from news articles, and I believe even I think I found one transcript of a deposition or something that was online, and that's where I learned that I think it's Jean Courtier actually punched one of his kidnappers in the courtroom, like actually slugged the guy in public after the fact, and there were no repercussions, thankfully. I laughed out loud when I saw that. That was great. And that's the suit those guys brought failed miserably, and they all went back to prison.
Okay, so this is from Jeff. I always thought the Lady Killers would make a good TV or radio series. In each episode, she'd house a new culprit and, of course, unwillingly foil them with her police station visits a running gag. What noir characters do you think would lend themselves to more stories you'd wish to see, such as Dick Steele's next ill-fated romance or tales in the film's universe? Example, a separate story of an asphalt jungle and job employee, keeping trouble as my business. Jeff. So anyway,
okay, I'm going to parse this out. So
okay.
I'm trying to remember the old lady's name in the Lady Killers. Wilburn or Will something. Katie Johnson, I think, was the actress, and she's fantastic. But I have to say, Jeff, I think as a TV series that'd get tired pretty fast, because you'd kind of know how it was going to turn out. I mean, the great thing about the Lady Killers is it's kind of a one and done comedy concept, you know. But as for, I definitely do not want to see a TV series about Dick Steele's further relationships. No, I do not want to see that. God, it's painful. The first one was painful enough. Or whatever. It wasn't, the one we saw wasn't even the first one. It was the second or third, you know. So those don't end well. But you know, there were, as for something set in the world of the film, that did happen. I mean, right, there was the Naked City, the TV series Naked City, which had no relationship to the movie other than it was New York. It was all shot in New York. So that happened. And there was an Asphalt Jungle TV series. I think it was on in 1961, but it was not the movie because it wasn't about the crooks. It was about the cops. So it was like a police procedural. It was not a noir thing whatsoever. So there really, this raises an interesting point, and there's a corollary with writing crime fiction, is that if you write a series character, right, like a detective character, and you know there's going to be a series of books, can it really be noir? Because if there isn't the specter of death, then it's really kind of like hard-boiled detective fiction. It's not really noir if it's not possible for the protagonist to die, right? And so that's what's kind of interesting. And I know this is kind of splitting hairs, but when on the literary side of things, that's definitely true. I don't think it holds true. I don't know. I mean, a television series, if you know. I mean, The Sopranos. Look, you really thought that by the time they ended that Tony Soprano was going to die, right? And maybe he did. You know, that was the genius of that show. Or Breaking Bad, where I consider that to be noir because the prospect of Walter dying was very real, through the whole thing, or any regular series character that could be popped off at any time, that could happen. That's all. So I'm just saying that by its nature, a series of things is really tough to pull off as noir. We'll see. We're waiting breathlessly, right, Anne, for Better
Yeah,
Call
for
Saul.
Better Call Saul and see
Like,
how that
is
plays
he
out.
going to make it through to the end or not? You know,
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
No, I'm more concerned about Howard right now than anyone else.
Kim, I just want Kim to make it through. You know. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. And this is from Anne in Claremont, California. Wouldn't Shanghai Express from 1932 with Marlene Dietrich be considered noir? It has all the elements, but is much earlier than your 1940 start date. Could it be honorary noir? Then what about The Man I Married or I Married a Nazi from 1940 with Joan Bennett? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, asking for a friend. You know, I'm happy that people are interested in this, but I'm going to say that my tagging of 1940 is the earliest stirrings of the film noir movement in Hollywood. I'm not saying that nothing that can be considered noir didn't exist before then, but it was not a movement at all. So if you look at Joseph von Sternberg's movies, they all look and feel kind of like noir, but there was no movement happening. That was just his style. But he wasn't really interested in crime. That wasn't his thing, right? And there are other films other than the Shanghai Express that von Sternberg made that you could certainly point to as proto-noir or something, you know? Underworld, Thunderbolt, Docks of New York, which is my personal favorite von Sternberg film. All of those films feel like noir, but they're not part of any kind of movement. He was just his own thing at that point. And I don't really think that the people who came later were copying him. So I'm not really going to give von Sternberg credit for creating the film noir style. You know, he was his own thing.
Yeah.
You know, so, and same with those other films that Anne cites. It's like, yeah, of course you can see elements of noir in all of this. I mean, it's there in Sunrise. It's there in Anthony Asquith's Cottage on Dartmoor. I mean, you can see it, but it hasn't gained the traction yet to be a movement. So when I say 1940, I'm not saying like a light switch flipped on and then they were making noir. It's like that's when, for various reasons, and I do credit the writers who suddenly made this popular, Hammett and, you know, Chandler, James M. Cain, they were providing the grist for people, and then they decided this is the way they should look, like this, you know, and because we all know the reasons why. But I'm just clarifying that I don't keep a running list of this was the first film noir, because my interest is more in like, how do these things feed off each other, and when did it become this movement, this snowballing thing where suddenly studios were producing dozens of these every year. That's the film noir era.
Okay, let's see. And this is from North City Henchman Jeff. Anne, Eddie, and Feline Friends. Should male thespians be called actors and females actresses? Modern job titles are not gender specific. Should they all be actors? Additionally, there are genders, non-binary identities, etc. Men can play women and vice versa. Does the distinction describe the role played or who plays the role? Conversely, Props ironically said, distinction ensures equality in the awards. What's the best solution?
Okay. I get what Jeff is asking here. And this is an interesting question because it's something we deal with doing our on-air introductions on TCM and everything, people have become more sensitive to this. Like, do you not want to distinguish actresses because performers are performers, right? And very often we will substitute, or I will speak for myself, I will substitute performers or something like that. But then my goal is to impart useful information. And sometimes I find that doing the gender neutral thing keeps you from imparting valuable information, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if I'm going to say, it's only confusing if I say Barbara Stanwyck is the greatest film actor of all time. That's because I don't necessarily believe that. I may believe she's the greatest film actress of all time. And by using the term actress, I'm clarifying that I'm speaking of women now.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think that's a sexist designation at all. I'm just using the term to impart information and trying to be as clear as possible, and in there, Jeff snuck in some observations that I'm intrigued by, but I don't want to get off track too far on this, because he was saying, men can play women and women can play men. I heard that in what you were saying.
Yeah.
And I wonder, because this is a big thing now, right? Like, you don't, I don't know even what to call it anymore, but the correctness thing of, you don't have a Caucasian playing an Asian in a movie.
Yeah.
Why does that not apply to men playing women or women playing men? I mean, it's just, or are we wrong about the whole thing, that performers are performers? And, I've had many talks about this in recent days, and it's like, and this is where I'll leave it. It's like, I kind of don't like that idea. Like, you shouldn't play outside what you are. I tend to disagree with that. It has to be on a case-by-case basis, because it's like, what is the point? If you're doing it to ridicule or mock someone, then you're just an asshole, right? That doesn't make any sense. But if you're doing it in some serious way, how else are you supposed to try to comprehend the thing you are not, or the other, if you're not allowed to explore that and go there? So, it's just like, it's just interesting to me, because I don't know how these lines get drawn. Like, nobody's going to complain about, what's the movie with Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes where they all play transvestites?
Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to complain about that, because it's like, oh, that's great, But on the other hand, there are, incorrect ways of approaching that. And it's just like, I don't quite get it. I just think, like, art is art, and you take risks and you explore things. And I don't like the enforced barriers that are being put up to say you shouldn't do this and this is wrong and blah, blah, blah. I mean, back in the old days in Hollywood, it was wrong, right? Because it's like, the bitter tea of General Yin, and it's like, they get a Swedish actor to play the Asian character. It's like, that's ridiculous, because they couldn't even conceive of having an Asian actor play the role. Obviously, we know it's different now, but to then say, you can't ever do it, I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. Okay, I probably stuck my foot in it enough now, and but that's just the way I feel about it. I think art is supposed to be provocative and challenging.
Yeah.
And if that means going outside the lines to explore something else, then I'm all for it, you know.
Okay. Okay, and this is Jeff from San Jose / North City. It seems The Maltese Falcon will be the eternal best film adaptation of a novel, largely because the book is just action and dialogue with only sparse essential description. An almost perfect translation is except for the Flitcraft parable. Being as Houston's very literally auteur, why isn't said fractured fairy tale in the film?
Okay, so yeah, it's interesting too, because Hammett, he was like writing camera eye stuff in that book. That was his goal. At one point in his early concept for the Maltese Falcon was sort of like doing the entire thing in a first person where everything was what Sam Spade saw. But then he found a wonderful corollary for that in the way he finally wrote it in that really clipped, objective, third person style. The Flitcraft parable, which is a lot of people's favorite part of the book, is not in the movie because it would have just slowed everything down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great in and of itself, and it speaks volumes, but it doesn't belong in the movie, honestly.
Yeah.
And books work differently than movies because you read at your own pace. Movies have a pace. Books are the pace that you give them. And so it wouldn't work in the film. That's all.
Yeah. And this is from Steve. What are Eddie's top 5 or handful of Noir posters he would recommend displaying?
I don't recommend displaying any of them. No, well, as you may have noticed, Anne, I have a slightly different setup this week.
Yeah, I was going to say it's different.
Yeah, I've turned things around. Not in my office. I actually have my laptop. I write standing up,
yeah.
And so I have my laptop on like a lectern that's on wheels, so I can kind of turn it around. And so I thought this week I'd turn it so people could see a little different part of the office.
Is that Steve Cochran behind you?
It is. It is, which means that this time you're seeing a German poster for Highway 301, which in Germany was called Der Panther. Der Panther. And it is the most crazy maniacal face that Steve Cochran has in this book. He's just totally psycho in this thing. It's great. I love that poster. But it's set back and it doesn't get direct sunlight, so it's okay to have this one displayed. In the next room, in my bathroom, I have, where I never take a shower, because this is a separate upstairs bathroom, I have a French poster from Angel Face that is really great. But I don't really display them. Yes, whatever he's asking, it's like, what are my 5 posters? Well, there's that one I love that's on the other wall from Tomorrow is Another Day.
Another Steve Cochran.
And I have, yeah, I'm a Steve Cochran fan. And I have a beautiful 3-sheet from, not a 3-sheet, it's an Italian quartofolio, which means it's huge, from Deadline at Dawn, which is great because it's a beautiful painting of Susan Hayward and 2 other guys. Because Bill Williams and Paul Lucas, but when you look at the poster, you don't really see them. It's all Susan Hayward. And I have my Out of the Past 1-sheet, which, as I've said, next to my house and my car, that's the most money I've ever paid for any one item in my life. So there you go. But I will say, look, if you're into movie posters, our friend Brian Light, who wrote about this in the Noir City magazine, has also done a whole series, 50 50 of these things on Facebook where he presents his poster collection, and his poster collection is way better than mine. So that's light, like light and dark. Brian Light. Go to Facebook, friend Brian, and check out his talks about his posters. It's fantastic. He was doing a big show of his posters down in LA right when the pandemic started. So I felt so sorry for him. And then he did this this series on Facebook to kind of compensate for not having that show that he had spent so much time planning. So
and also, if you're interested in the article, Brian's article is Out of the Past, Collecting Film Noir Posters, and it's issue 26. And you can buy the back issue at www.northcitymag.com. And all our back issues of the North City magazine are available there. And if you buy one, just let you know, it takes a couple days before you get it, because we are a very small operation.
But you'll get it.
But
you'll get it. I know people are so used to
you'll get the link to download it.
Yeah, they're so used to point and click now that we are not Amazon. We are not Amazon.
We are not Amazon, but we do our best. Eddie, throughout these live streams, I have been greatly admiring your Italian film poster.
Are you kidding me?
Tomorrow is another day. Hanging in your office just over your shoulder. Not today.
Not today. Not today. It's not. It's over there. It's
that way. I have been desperately searching for a version of that poster everywhere for a while now and have no luck in finding one. Where did you get yours? Perhaps you could guide me in the right direction in finding one. And this is Paul from Canada.
Well, Paul from Canada, I'm sure I got that online. You just have to be perseverant. There's some movies where I'm looking for, I have a lot of movie posters, and sometimes it's like, I don't have anything on this movie. I wonder if there are any good posters. So I just put a little alert on eBay to say, alert me when something appears from this title, and every once in a while I find something that way. But that's it. I mean, if you just go on eBay and search, and I don't know what to tell you about that one. I certainly did not know the Italian title of the movie, so I found that by looking for Tomorrow is Another Day, which is a personal favorite film. And I have a Belgian poster, a French poster, a Spanish poster, a German poster, an Italian poster, and a Yugoslavian poster, in addition to all the US posters for that film. So, and because it's not a particularly well-known movie, they don't cost a lot. They just don't cost a lot of money. If you go out there and look for This Gun for Hire or The Postman Always Rings Twice or The Blue Dahlia or something, it's going to cost you $12,000 if you want an original poster. But if you look for Tomorrow is Another Day or City That Never Sleeps or something like that, you can find them, and they're not too expensive. So, of course, then I write books about this stuff and the price goes up. So sorry, but that's how it happens. You'll notice I did a book on movie posters and I got all those movie posters for like $25 that are in the book. Yeah. Then the book's been out for like 10 years and now those posters are like $500. So sorry.
This is from Martin, Los Angeles. After you mentioned it in a previous episode, I watched Five Against the House, and the number of extras in the crowded Reno casino made me think, how did they manage this, especially if it was low budget? Same goes to the suburb storm warning. This must be done either by low-level control and happy accident or by strict choreography. Can you shed any light on this?
That's an interesting question. Well, look, Five Against the House was shot in Reno in the casinos. And I'm sure that they did it back then, just like if you're shooting a documentary now, They probably posted things at the entrances saying, if you don't want to possibly be on camera, do not enter. Right? I mean, we've done that at the Castro when during Noir City, when documentary stuff has been shot, we just post something to alert people that a film is being shot, and if you don't want to be seen on camera because you're a known felon or you're with somebody and you're afraid your wife is going to see you or something, don't come in. Otherwise, it's fair game. Usually people have to sign a release or something, but that's now. Back then, that wouldn't have been the case. So I'm sure that for Five Against the House, they just went into the casinos. I think those people were interested in something else other than a movie being made. They're pulling the slot machines and gambling and all this. So it's just like a minor distraction shooting the movie. And I'm not exactly sure what scenes he's meaning in Storm Warning. I know there's a scene in a bowling alley that looked very real, but generally if they're using extras from the location where they're filming, they would just put out a call and say, "Hey, we're shooting a movie. Come down here and be an extra," and that was all there was to it. If you look at the ultimate in that regard is Cy Enfield's Try and Get Me, where the riot scene at the end of the movie was all people in Phoenix, Arizona. They just put out a thing saying, we're shooting this movie and we're going to film a mob scene and a riot. If you want to be part of it, come on down, and then they did just kind of wrangle them. Like, everybody over here, move this way when we say move this way. Everybody, that's it. It really isn't that complicated.
This one is from Michael E. Hartman. I'm an assistant DA and thus prosecutor all my life. My favorite older noir is Bogey's The Enforcer, 1951, and a story of what happened when a DA goes into criminal defense illegal with Edward G. Robinson. The Enforcer goes through the entire case in flashback to see if Bogart can replace a witness lost at the last minute just before the trial. What is your choice for pre-60s movies with a good story showing a good DA in acting? George C. Scott in Anatomy of a Murder. There are great pre-60s trial movies, but the DA is extraneous or prosecuting an innocent person.
Yes. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, The Enforcer, it's not a lost Bogart movie, but it's one that gets overlooked a lot of the time. It's a pretty good film. And Illegal with Edward G. Robinson, that's but it's funny, this hang on.
There you go.
It's funny because you don't see too many DAs featured in film noir.
Yeah.
Because most of the stories are about the people accused of things, and you empathize with them. Ergo, the DA or the prosecutor is kind of given the villain role.
Yeah.
In these films, like A Place in the Sun, but I mean, two that stand out for me. And I know he's saying, oh, but these don't count because he's not a good DA.
Yeah.
But I disagree. I think they're good DAs, both of these characters. And I don't think the characters that we are, quote unquote, rooting for are innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's noir.
That's why I was saying about Place in the Sun. It's like, well, I'd like to point out.
Exactly.
I think he's doing a good job.
Well, so do I. Likewise with, Leon Ames in The Postman Always Rings Twice. Yeah. I mean, he shows up right in the first scene of the movie. He has a huge part in the film. And, they're not innocent. Yeah. And also the other one I really like, because it's kind of a different role for him, is Jim Backus in Angel Face, where he is prosecuting. Well, I can't remember. separate cases because they get married and all that nonsense. But he's pretty good. And again, it's not like they're innocent.
Yeah.
So these guys, and Jim Backus gets a lot of screen time in Angel Face, but by their very nature, prosecuting attorneys are not featured characters in film noir. So it's interesting because he cites the enforcer doesn't show up on a lot of noir things because Bogart is a good crusading DA. He's trying to bust the mob, and it's a good film. I like the film. I'm trying to remember the name of the character. Have you seen the film, The Enforcer, where at the end they're calling out her name through a megaphone? Get off the street, Maria, get off the street. It's crazy. But and Ted DeCourcy has a great role in that film too. But anyway, that's it. Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head is Leon Ames in Postman and Jim Backus in Angel Face.
Hey, and okay, so here's our last question of the night from Jonathan. I'm curious, what percentage of noirs have a character, including a main character named Johnny? Would it only be around 85% or much higher, like in the upper 90s?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Okay, so here we go, Ann. That's a good question, a great one to end on. So here's the contest. We're going to go back and forth. Give me a film noir or just a film.
Okay.
With the title character, Johnny.
Johnny O'Clock.
Okay, I'll go with Johnny Eager.
Johnny Stool Pigeon.
Okay. And I'm going to break from the old school and I'll go with Johnny Handsome.
Oh, that's a good film.
Yeah, Walter Hill. That's a good film.
That's a great film. And by the way, you all should watch that. I'm blanking. I know there's more.
Oh, there are more. Johnny, go ahead. Come on, you can do it. Johnny Apollo with Tyrone Power. Johnny Angel with George Raft.
George Raft, that's what I was trying to remember.
And another Johnny with George Raft is Johnny. I think it's Johnny Allegro.
Yeah, it's Johnny Allegro.
Johnny Allegro. There's Johnny Cool. There's Johnny One Eye. And then, as a parody of all of this, William Gibson wrote a story that Keanu Reeves made into a sci-fi noir called Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah. And I'm sure there's many more that were not. Johnny Stool Pigeon was a good one. That's excellent. But yeah, Johnny O'Clock coming up later this year on Noir Alley. And I know I can think of more. I'm trying to think of my poster collection, like how many Johnny posters I have in my collection. But that was good. Yes. So I don't know if it's in the 80s or whatever, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Johnnies. Johnny Staccato with John Cassavetes. That was a TV show.
That was a TV show, but we're counting it.
We're going to count that. Okay. That was good. That was a good one to go out on. That was fun. Okay, so we're going to do this again coming up pretty soon. So
we should be back next week.
And by then I'll do a full 360 rotation in the office.
You should. That way we can get a feel for your whole thing. 360 noir.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, very good. I want to thank everybody for the great questions. There was a lot of fun stuff this time. And hold on a second. If you want to get your questions answered in the future, subscribe to our newsletter, which you can do at filmnoirfoundation.org, because I send out a newsletter once a month, and that's how I solicit the questions for these Ask Eddies. And also, if you donate $20 or more to the foundation and subscribe to our email, then we'll send you North City E-Magazine for a year. Fabulous. And just really quick, for people who maybe came in late, the matching donation thing is really great. We thank Peter for that. And there will be information about it, I'm sure, on the posting for this Ask Eddie. So, Anne, that was great fun. We will see you and Charlotte next time. Charlotte, don't get too excited.
I know.
Okay. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.